Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Beyond the Red Door podcast. This is episode 7 now. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely co host, Dominick Perry. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing pretty great. How about
You
yourself?
know, I'm hanging in there. It's the middle of the week. Excited for the weekends. Been catching up on a bunch of stuff, but yeah, you're doing good.
Good. And then we are joined by our lovely guest, Colin Tetkoski. Colin, what's going through your mind right now? How you feeling?
Well, it's honestly always a pleasure talking with everyone from SigEp and just seeing them. It's been way too long. I can't remember the last time I've seen you, Austin. Dom, it was just amazing seeing you in June. I was like, I miss him. But yeah, this is the first time being on a podcast, even though I listen to podcasts all the time. It's really interesting being on one by myself.
I've what kind of podcasts are you listening to? I've been starting to get more into podcasts. I found a couple that I stick with. And for me, it's good to listen to podcasts, but I get so distracted that it's hard for me to stick with the episode of a podcast. So I found a couple that I listen to. I don't know. What about you? What do you kind of get into, Colin?
Well, for me, I have really I lean towards two main podcasts. One of them is called Behind the Bastards. It's by this
Mm-hmm.
journalist who every week or twice a week this guy Robert Evans has a co-host and they discuss all the worst people in history or like something adjacent. Like they did
Okay.
like one of the first episodes was on Bin Laden, and through a Freedom of Information Act request, a FOIA request, there was several terabytes on his hard drive of knitting and crocheting videos.
Interesting.
It's unique. How did you stumble upon this podcast?
Yeah, and I don't know how I did, but I also learned about um, a really good in-depth discussion on cryptocurrency and how it's uses more energy to generate cryptocurrency than it does powering a small city for a month. And another podcast I love is called We Hate Movies. It's four best friends who all work in the film industry in some way,
Hmm.
and they once a week they just roast a movie and discuss it. Other times they do a We Love Movies episode. I just finished listening to one We Love Movies episode on Return of the Jedi. It was very good. But yeah, that's what I do mainly on my commute to and from work.
I live 7 minutes away from work, so I can't get a podcast in if I wanted to.
That was how I was like all summer. I listened to podcasts constantly last year because I had an hour drive to work. Um, and
Oh
then
my
this whole summer I just like took a break because I was like I don't have to drive anywhere. But now I'm driving like 30 to 40 minutes again, so I'm back into the podcast and listening. What kind of podcast you listen to, Dom?
Yeah.
So I listen to a couple. One of them is just a sip. He is it is by just one guy who kind of does lives out in the Chicago area, and he just kind of goes on talking about a lot of things. But the reason why I kind of enjoyed, I found him through TikTok initially, and his statement was, "I'm your favorite TikTok blogger, or not yet if you haven't stuck around long enough to find out." And I was like, okay, that's pretty catchy and gimmicky. But he like I really started following like his TikToks because they were like kind of simple and like they very ADHD esque. Where like that's where my brain kind of goes to,
Hmm.
and because he jumps back and forth with things. And I started listening to his podcast. He was talking about personal growth and social growth, um, and it was really really enjoyable. I got a lot of good points out of it. Um, and then it was very like he also got very distracted easily because like there was a noise of like a fire engine like driving like past his apartment. He's like stopped his whole podcast. He's like, "You guys hear that? That's a fire engine, man." And then he went off on a small tangent about like fire engines and everything, like just driving by. And if he could, like, if only I could tell him that I was recording a podcast, maybe they'd avoid my street entirely. Um, so like it's a very I don't know, it's a very like light humor, but learning a little bit about myself and kind of like understanding a little bit of social growth. The other one that I listen to is with gosh, I can't think of the name right now, but it is with Charlie Barons and the You Betcha guy. They both do a podcast now.
Oh, I feel like you told me about this and I forgot what the name was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because I was texting it to you when I was driving down to Madison for something, and I can't remember what it was. Because with driving to Madison, that's a 3.5 hour drive to me, so I got to find something to keep me busy. And I was glad I found it because I was running out of random lore videos for the longest time. Like I think on my one drive to Madison and back, I did the entire like Star Wars timeline, and
that's one way to keep
became
it
like
busy.
a 7-hour video. I learned a lot, forgot a lot, but it kept me busy the whole drive. Of that's interesting. I don't know, but so I don't listen to podcasts too much. I'm more of a music person, and so I don't know. So like I've been getting, I don't know. I try to stick to podcasts, but music have always like stuck to my heart towards the end. Love playlists, love making playlists. I have like a whole bunch of album artwork all over my apartment. But yeah, that's really about it. I don't know, Austin. What about you?
I think.
If I may interject, Austin, Dom, I actually have an album recommendation for you.
Yeah,
American Beauty by the Grateful Dead. One of the greatest albums of all time. What?
I said, of course I've listened to that. I have it. It's actually saved on my playlist section. I have
you listened to the Cornell concert?
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, like all my albums are just kind of stuck through here. If I have, albums and albums and albums to save, and I generally do try to listen to new albums. But
amazing, I love it.
Austin, you got a podcast you want to share? Out there?
I was waiting for you to come back to me. Yeah. Let's see. I listen to a lot of different podcasts. I listen to a lot of soccer ones. Kind of keep me updated since I'd like to follow places like all over the world. So usually like that kind of sports related. Listen to some video game ones. I think my like unsung like one that I like listening to, it's called Trendifier. I found it on TikTok as well. Just kept getting recommended to me like small clips. The guy's name is Julian
What is it called?
Trendifier. The guy's name is Julian Dorley.
I'm writing this.
Yeah, write it down. It's on Spotify. He does actual videos too, but he just brings on like the most random guests. Like his background, like he's I think he's from Philly, and he was like had a job in like real estate or like banking somewhere like there, and then decided to drop it all to just do a podcast during the pandemic. But he just like because of his position that he had like all these connections, like random like people that just are all over the industries, like, and they just kind of talk about whatever. So like he's brought on like some guy that's like higher up in the FBI that like was just a family friend or something, and they just talked about a bunch of different stuff. Like it was a guy that like being the timeline I guess we're in right now with like the 9/11 being this past weekend, like this guy was like in one of the buildings like when it was or not in the building but like nearby when it was happening and like helping evacuate and stuff, and like talks about that in the whole episode. Like he has like people that own like famous restaurants all over the world, like people that are related to different sports figures, and so you can kind of like find an episode that just like appeals to something you're talking about, and then like just let it go from there and find a like I said, you kind of branch out into a bunch of different stuff. It's very interesting. I think my favorite one, if I recommend one to start on, is like I said, this guy in the FBI. He's done like 3 episodes with him. His name's Jim DiOrio. You can look him up. Like I said, very like high up dude in the FBI at some point. Or another one that was really good that I enjoyed. He knows like some tech guys from that are like developing like software for holograms. Like they're like the biggest company in hologram development. And I listened to a full episode where they were talking about like the future of technology and developing holograms and stuff. And it was just like mind blown, like how, I guess not like how close that like technology is, but like what they're looking at and like their projections for it within like the next 5 to 10 years. I was like, that's crazy. So just some good listening, and like I said, just kind of random stuff. You can really like zone out to it and just like vibe. That's for sure.
Do you still listen to the Office Ladies podcast?
No, I stopped a while ago, like maybe like 10 episodes, 15 episodes in. I don't know why.
Yeah, it was good. It was cool learning behind the scenes of the Office episodes, but I definitely I think I did drop off because it was cool, and I don't think it's something I wanted like to follow left and right, but I think it was pretty cool.
For sure.
Colin's using the hand feature. This
I
hand raising
know.
feature is cool.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
That is a podcast I'm trying to get into, The Office Ladies, but I actually bought a book by what's his name? Brian something. He plays Kevin in The Office, and it's called Welcome to Dunder Mifflin. It's like a behind the scenes story of the history of The Office, from it being suggested to just like after the epilogue, after everything is ended.
Interesting.
Highly recommend it.
I know he has I know
Yeah.
Brian Baumgartner has a cookbook now too, a chili cookbook.
Does he really?
Yeah, I want to buy it.
What else? He's a spokesperson for a few things. Like I know he's a spokesperson for the AC company, which is the weirdest thing out there.
I didn't know that.
He's been doing a few things since
For
the Office
Bean
ended.
Company,
What was that, Colin?
That is true.
for Canned Bean Company, I think.
Yeah,
I think
for
I've
Bush
seen that
Beans,
one.
he did a few commercials
That's
for
what it
Bush
was.
Beans. It was really funny.
Huh. Well, now everybody knows we're big fans of The Office, if you didn't know that already. I have a good story about that
It's not my
related to soccer as well, if we end up getting into that conversation, but we'll leave that for another time. Before we get too off track, though, let's steer back to what we're here for. We got Colin obviously here to share your story about SigEp, kind of how you joined, different aspects of it, how it's impacted you. And it's good to get you on because, again, like some of our past couple of people that we've had on kind of had, I would say, like untraditional students that we recruited, because like again usually recruiting like freshmen. So why don't you tell us about how you heard about SigEp, kind of what's like your story with that.
Well, so a bit of a context. I'm the youngest of three kids. My oldest sister Nora, she went to lacrosse. She wasn't involved in Greek life at all. My other sister Katie, she went to UW Madison, go Badgers, and she was involved with a sorority there. And she just had a very less than stellar time in the sorority. And she had finished undergrad by the time I had started undergrad. So I came into college at Platteville with a kind of a chip on my shoulder and already a negative perception of Greek life by based on her experiences. So it's like dislike through osmosis, I think. But anyway, I just didn't really care for Greek life at all. And in the summer between my sophomore and junior year, I had a sudden death in the family that really, really hit me deep. And I threw myself into studies that fall of 2016. I just cut myself off from everybody, and like I knew of SigEp just like adjacently because I'd walk past all my classes were in Alsvik, and I would just walk past the house when I was walking to town for the library or something. But I didn't really know anything about them other than they have a big rock out front. But the fast forward to like March of 2017, and I'm in like experimental psych with Becky Furnett, and I get this email from this guy named Jake Haran saying, and the subject line was like free dinner. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna open this. It's like, hello, Colin. My name is Jay Cran. I'm reaching out to you because you made the dean's list the previous semester, and I would like to invite you for a free spaghetti dinner with Sigma Phi Epsilon. Just be here at this time at this location. I hope to see you there. I'm like, okay, it's Greek life, so I don't really want to go, but I'm like, free dinner that isn't like on campus or something I have to make, so free is always good. I go in and I'm like super awkward. And Austin was actually like one of the first guys that greeted me, other than Gabe, and Darshan also greeted me. This is just I'm just recollecting this, and then I have my plate of food, and we had that high backed chair that was against the wall, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I see this head pop out of this door to my right, and this guy shuffles up to me without saying a word, reaches over and opens his hand. He has something and drops something in my lap. I look down and it's a fragmentation grenade. I almost had a heart attack. And this guy says, "Hi, welcome to SigEp. I'm Mark." And that was my first experience with SigEp, and I'm like, I can tell this is gonna be a great time. But and Austin, I still have the bid card that you and Jake gave me.
Wow.
It's not with me here, but it's at home.
Mhm.
But since joining SigEp, sorry, what was the question? I feel like I'm rambling.
No, you're not rambling.
No, you're good.
yeah.
You're good.
Just wanted to kind of hear
No, but
everything, how you joined and stuff.
yeah, I joined halfway through junior year spring semester, which I feel like that's a very unusual time
Mm-hmm.
to join a fraternity, but that's one of the cool things about SigEp was our 24/7 365 recruitment.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, now I think
And
joining in as a junior, like one of the new guys we just got, joined in as a junior as well, and it seems like the last couple of years we've at least had one or two. So like maybe you're the one that set the precedent. Like, hey, let's get some of these older guys in. So
trendsetter.
yeah.
But honestly, the great thing about SigEp was both of you guys and just everyone in general, both current, past, or former members, y'all were there when I truly needed someone to be there as like a lifeline, but also as a shoulder to cry on. There have been a lot of late nights when we would just sit in a living room and just talk. And I would just end up crying on somebody's shoulder. Sometimes it would be Jay. Sometimes it would be, I think I cried on Lenny's shoulder once. I know I cried on Vic's shoulder a bunch of times, but Vic just is such a wholesome being. But yeah, and even though I was only part of SigEp for as an undergrad for a little over a year, this SigEp has always been a huge part of my life since then.
Yeah. I completely forgot that was like how we got you into the like being involved, like the spaghetti dinner stuff. I remember when we like came up with that idea, because that was when you were like one of the first people during our big like recruitment revamp, and so we were like, how can we get like new people in? And we had that idea of like, hey, like let's contact the dean's list people and just see who shows up. um and so like you were like our, I can't remember if too many others showed up, but like you are a successful one from that like idea that we were trying. So we appreciate that you actually came around. I think it's also important to preference with the grenade that again it was a like the
Yeah, it was a prop. It was something that you get in at an army surplus store.
Yeah.
I apologize.
No, it's okay. I just Mark's pulled many a prank with that. to people that were at the house. So we just wanted to get that around, so that we were not playing around with
Yeah.
explosives in the house.
No, we
Almost lost the house a few times, but
But it was worth it. A good scare.
just some of the stuff you would get in the mail always weirded me out, especially when it was in like the brown like lunch sack paper with twine tying it together. That always concerned me, but I was like, Mark's being Mark. He's not hurting anyone. I'll let him be.
You're completely right there. I do remember a couple of times where it was like, yeah, I should be getting a package from like some random country. Like, just make sure that it's okay. And I was like, okay, Mark, whatever.
yeah, it came extra duct tape every time.
Yeah.
But one thing I've noticed, like this, it's actually something I was thinking about when I was just like finishing up something before this, is how my view of Greek life, especially SigEp in general, varies compared to what others have thought. Like when I moved here, I started. So to preface, like for anyone who hasn't met me, I'm I moved here August of 2020. So in the midst of a global pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
to start grad school, I knew absolutely no one here in Cincinnati. In Ohio, I kind of knew my roommate, but we had only Zoomed like once and were texting back and forth. So I was going in blind to Xavier University for my master's in clinical mental health counseling. But my roommate introduced me to his roommate's, his girlfriend's roommate, and we hit it off. But then, as soon as I had mentioned, like, like I was making her dinner at my apartment, she saw I have a SigEp flag that I got as an undergrad, and immediately after she ghosted me, and I later found out she assumed that because of the perception of what others have of different chapters, she assumed that for me. But then the another person that I did see, um, she was initially hesitant about dating a quote unquote frat boy, but was willing to give me a chance because she had said, "You're not. You've told me about your chapter. You guys were a bunch of nerds, but guys, a bunch of nerds, and the I'm not going to judge you based on what others have done. I'm going to judge you based on my interactions with you." So
Mm-hmm.
it's always interesting people's perceptions of Greek life, especially like different organizations based on like what other chapters have done instead of that specific chapter.
Yeah. I want to like circle that back to kind of when you were talking about like your sister's experience with Greek life and kind of how that
Yeah.
influenced you. Like, so again, like you had just said, like your sister didn't have a very good experience with Greek life. It kind of left that perception on you, which is why you were kind of, I would say, hesitant at first. Um, those, at least those first couple years. But what what kind of made you like made that turnaround where you were interested in like obviously you came for the free food that first night, but after that first initial like came back around, we saw that potential in you, which is why we bid you. So what made you keep coming when you had that such negative preconceived notion of what Greek life was?
So this sounds so sad as I say it out loud, but like, no, it's not about SIGEP, but it's like, well, kind of relates to something Robbie had said once. But if somebody met me in person, like I'm actually an incredibly shy person. Like I'm super awkward in social situations,
Mm-hmm.
and it's difficult for me to make friends. But by going to SIGEP, like in a very cynical manner, I thought, oh, I have people who are being paid to be around me, which is incredibly cynical a nihilistic outlook, but at the time, I was like, I I need a fresh set of opinions and eyes so that they are able to help me process the trauma from the previous summer. And having this outside perspective helped a lot. Plus, I was able to grow in my self confidence, which is always a plus.
I mean, I feel like I remember, which again, my memory is really bad sometimes, but uh,
Same.
yeah. But like again, I'm not gonna lie, Colin. Like the growth that we saw in you from the beginning to like the end of your time with SigUp was like amazing. Like you were a completely different person in my opinion. And so the fact that like we were able to do that for you and help you out and allow you to grow in your self confidence was just fantastic to see.
You're gonna make me blush, Austin.
We do what we can here. So throughout all your experiences and everything, how through with SigUp growing you, I guess. So who is that made you today? Who are you? Kind of what do you do? The age old question is, who are you today?
Well, looking at that's a very obviously a loaded question, and with that, I ask like, are you asking how I am professionally, how I am personally, or just how I have changed since joining?
Um,
I would say all
I guess
aspects.
professionally, yeah, all aspects really.
Let's start professionally.
Professionally,
So,
personally.
so professionally, this may seem like a long story, but bear with me. So, Platteville, obviously a predominantly engineering school. So I had originally wanted to do engineering because I had taken a bunch of project lead the way classes in high school. I was pushed to do physics, chemistry, AP physics, and AP calc by my parents, which my scores on the AP exam for physics and calc 1 should have really been a good indicator that I'm not going to do well. But I decided to switch after not almost bombing out freshman year. I decided to take a gen ed for like intro to criminal justice, and the it's a very criminal justice is such a very unique major. I think just with how it's very nebulous, but being in SigEp, especially talking with brothers who were ahead of me or who had graduated already, who were like in the criminal justice field as like a probation agent or as a police officer, it helped give me perspective of like, okay, do I want to be a correctional officer? Do I want to be a cop? But after talking, and I remember I think I was actually at the house when I was helping out and just like watching out for people. At like 2 in the morning, I had did a Google search of like nonprofits in Milwaukee, where I'm from, technically a suburb of Milwaukee, even though it's like 28 miles away. I digress. And I applied for this position as a case manager at this place called Justice Point, the Milwaukee Municipal Court. I was accepted there, and I was able to continue building relations in Milwaukee with like alumni, and then just have 2 years into the pandemic, like I always knew I wanted to go to grad school for my doctorate, and I knew I did not want to do social work at all because of an experience with one of my previous supervisors. Like, oh boy, okay. But I decided I wanted to stay in Wisconsin, but on a whim, I decided to apply to Xavier also because my dad went here 40 years ago. I was like,
Oh.
might as well try. And I have told almost no one this, so hello world. Xavier was the only place that accepted me. So I was like, all right, Never been to Ohio. Well, I have once when I went to tour. All right, time to move. And I feel like moving here, having the support of like undergrad brothers, but also alumni, really helped ease this transition. And after 2 years, I finished my master's degree last month, and now I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I work as a clinical therapist slash counselor at a place in about 30 minutes north of Cincinnati.
Awesome. Well, first off, I want to say congratulations on that. S-
Thank
being
you.
being somebody that's also gone through grad school, it's definitely a big accomplishment, especially during the pandemic. Not a great time, but
No.
the I wouldn't don't be embarrassed about that being the only school you got into. I mean, the one thing that I've been telling people for grad school, like people have asked me, some undergrads from Platteville, not necessarily with SigEp, but like through the psych program, have reached out about like grad school stuff too. And like the one thing I always tell them, I mean, like yeah, you can like apply to a bunch of places, but like really what matters is that you do get accepted somewhere because it's so competitive. So yeah, regardless on the fact that like maybe some other programs turned you down, you got accepted somewhere. Somebody saw the worth that you were going to bring to that program. So don't feel bad about that at
Yeah.
all. um, but yeah, no, that's a big accomplishment. It was awesome that like I feel like we took somewhat similar routes to like where we're in as well, like both in the mental health field area,
Yeah.
people services field. Um, Along the same route of like, hey, I started with engineering, this sucked. Let's figure out something else how to do it and just go on a whim and see how it goes. So that's exciting.
Plus, it's also leading into like balanced mind. Uh,
Uh,
Circling back to city. But yeah, but personally, I feel like as you had said to Austin, like be, since joining SigUp, I've been able to develop like a lot more support systems. I was able to go to a wedding of. I was invited to two weddings, but because of like scheduling, I was only able to attend one of them. But having people who care about you unconditionally, like even though initially it's like, oh, cynical paying for friends, but honestly, the relationships and friendships I've made in SIGEP as close to unconditional like positive regard and unconditional support than someone can get anywhere else. And having having that support system and that amount of people encouraging you helped me realize like regardless of how well I do, I know I at least have people who will be proud of me regardless.
mm-hmm. We always got your back. um yeah, so I mean that's fantastic to hear. I'm glad that like we said, like we were able to help you gain that experience and be those supports for you to carry around with you constantly. um
Yeah.
so going back to like your time with the undergrad chapter, um obviously the time was short, but I'm sure that there were still some moments that really like were defining to you during your time. So could you maybe share like one or any of those moments that you had that really lasted with you and just have impacted you going forward?
There was one really good time where we would do the like once a semester lock in where we would spend like almost the entire night just sitting around talking, and just like other times where it was like the really deep like making sure that beforehand you're like, am I at a good mental and emotional state in order to handle this discussion? Those times truly built that bond. But like another silly time that was dumb, well in hindsight it might seem dumb, but it was really nice, was on like a Friday or Saturday night when we would go to Asian Cafe for the 9:49 buffet, and we would bum rush the crab ragoon all the time, and then just hang out for the rest of the night.
I can tell you that through my now travels and trying different Asian places, I still do not think I could find a larger or better crab ragoon than the ones at Asian Cafe. They hold a special
Yeah.
place
Those
in my
were like
heart.
the size of softballs.
I know they were massive, and we would eat like everybody would go up and grab like 4 or 5 of them, and be like, "Oh, we're out of crab ragoons right now."
Yeah, Mark and I just kept slaughtering the entire pan. It was. There's a reason why I got that freshman 15 so quick. Yeah.
Well, eating at Asian Cafe
Or
will
the
probably do
freshman 26.
that. um, yeah, no, and especially hearing about those like brother bonding nights and stuff. Definitely for sure. I feel like those are, like you had said, like it was a good opportunity for everyone to just let everything out and really let everyone know how they're feeling, how they're doing, connect with everybody, and again, like build those supports that we were talking about. Like, again, being in the field that you and I are both in, like we know how impactful mental health is, and you're seeing it with a lot of people today. Like, being, I would say, a little more open about it, but um, I think like we were like ahead of most other organizations in terms of like advocating for like men's mental health within our group and making sure that everyone was doing well and being able to like you said, like sit down, cry if they needed to, really just talk about their feelings rather than just box all that up, like I think usually is like the stigma. So um
Plus, another thing that we're breaking from the stigma or tradition is how, like Friday or Saturday nights, when other people would go downtown to hit up Second Street, like there were nights where we would just play Nazi zombies or watch anime or just just play cards or shoot pool. That's showing that, especially what you had said, Austin, for like coping skills and support systems. Like some people, like honestly, I feel like if I didn't have support systems like you guys, or like things had gotten worse, I probably would have crawled into the bottle to cope. But having you guys as support systems helped me come to grip with trauma and negativity, and learning to learning to say that, Colin, it's okay to open up to people. Not everyone will be out to hurt you. Some people just want to be let in to help you.
mhm. And definitely takes a lot of strength to do that when you're someone that's not, like I said, like you said yourself, like kind of shy and not willing to always do that. And so the fact that you felt comfortable enough to be able to do that and open up with everybody and make those connections, like, is it's just phenomenal for like like you said, like what our organization is about. So glad that we were able to be there for you.
So if I could jump in real quick about mental health, I want to actually ask you about when you moved to Ohio, and how that experience went with learning a brand new place. So for me, when I moved up to Rice Lake, I think it was definitely very hard in the first couple months of just getting acclimated that I'm now me and I have myself, and no, and it's everyone's a painfully long drive away. So how did I guess how did you learn to be away from everyone?
Well, for me, just with the relation to like distance relation from work at the Milwaukee Municipal Court and home, for me, I just, as I had said, like I knew I wanted to go to grad school, and I just moved back in with my parents and just commuted to work. But moving to Ohio and truly essentially being away from home, like yeah, 2 hours from Platteville to home was a nice buffer. Like I could go home for a day
Mhm.
or a weekend. But I am, with good traffic, I'm like 6.5, 7 hours away, 3 states and a time zone away now. And yeah,
That's crazy.
try making that trip in one day, from like Green Bay area. Sucked. But yeah. But that is I utilize the same principle as I was with SigEp. I was thinking, okay, I'm in a new situation, might as well just basically take a leap of faith and try and make at least one friendship and then start from there. Oh, now
Have you
that I'm
found any
done with
restaurants
school,
or
now that I'm done with school, actually, am now I now have time to explore Cincinnati and learn places. Like, heck, um, one thing that a friend and I did for a little over a year, we made a list of all the microbreweries in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky, and that was just something we did together. But I'm trying to explore Cincinnati to see like what other little gems and wonders it has.
I'm sure it's got a lot of little nooks and crannies.
music in the park in cities is always really fun.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not fun. It's bad, Dom. It's very bad. And here's the thing. And here's the thing. Cincinnati is very hilly. Like going from this place called Finley Market, which is like this beautiful like farmers market that's open year round. From there to where someone I used to see, their apartment was up a hill that was like over like a 50-degree incline up.
That doesn't sound very fun.
People run that hill.
Oh,
I am running that hill in November.
Oh my god.
jeez. Is that for a special event?
Yeah, it's the Hill Street straight climb. It is
That's a fun name.
0.19 miles straight up.
Wow.
And I'm doing it with 30 pounds on my back
Why?
because I hate myself.
That's
And
fair.
bragging rights.
Are you gonna get a GoPro so we can watch you?
No, I don't want to. I don't want people to see my man boobs jiggling as I run.
I think this is a good
Yeah. So
sorry, I just wanted to like chime in because like you at a point were doing a bunch of different like marathons and stuff too, weren't you? Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
One marathon singular.
One singular marathon.
And
Okay.
I'm less weight than I was even in the midst of all the running.
Wow.
Like, yeah, this is like the lightest I've been since high school.
That's good.
that's really good. So how do you prepare for all that? Is what I was planning on asking. How do you
Like
train for going vertically up with 30 pounds extra?
Yes. I don't think you can really train. Like, you can do a stairmaster, but what's the fun in that?
Have you gone up that hill yet, or are you just waiting for the big day?
I've driven up it, and I'm like, this is gonna be fun. Also, another draw is like it's in Over the Rhine, which is a neighborhood, and there are just tons of breweries in OTR. So I'm like, I can if I'm as long as I make it to the top. It's like not like a race, but it's like it's a fun run. But then after crawling my way up a hill, I can then crawl my way to like a good brunch place and have mimosas. I don't know. Whatever I can do, I do.
That's the spirit. um
Life is short. Experiences are the spice of life.
I do feel that.
That's for sure. You got to get as many as you can. Now
Yeah.
that you wasted away a lot of, well, not wasted away. I shouldn't say that. But so much time spent put into school, and now you have time to actually experience fun
cafe.
stuff.
It's like now that I'm done with school, like this past weekend on Sunday, Saturday I went biking. That was fun. Sunday, because I didn't have any homework to do, I literally spent almost the entire day just playing Xbox and watching Netflix because I could.
Hmm.
And it was raining.
It feels amazing, doesn't it?
Yeah, like getting home from work, like I got home from work earlier. I was like, I just want to go to bed. Being an adult is exhausting.
I know. It's
I think what's harder is the discipline too that comes about, because with me, like I get home, like I got to go to the gym where I'm never gonna go, and so I sit there and contemplate skipping. I sit there like, maybe I could just skip it. I know I gotta go. It's that discipline, that because you have so much freedom now. Of now, I gotta get things done.
Yeah. I'm going through the same thing right now, Colin. It's like I finished up school, and it's like I make sure that I leave my work at work, and I'm like, okay, I'm home. I don't really have too much homework to do. Like, this is amazing. I don't know what to do with all my free time now.
For me, with just how it is, I finish like assessment notes at home, like because I don't really finish it during work because I'm procrastinating and I'm lazy
Mm-hmm.
at times. But other than that, like I finish things immediately, and once I get my first new paycheck tomorrow, I'm actually getting a alumni membership to the on-campus gym because it's not that far of a walk for me. Plus, they have a pool
Nice.
that I can go to.
College gyms are nice. I am jealous that I never got to experience the new Platteville gym.
I've only seen photos of it, and I'm like, how? This sounds so cool.
It's an insane gym. Like I knew about it and everything, but I never did anything with it, and now it's really cool. It's like huge. Like I go to a standard gym and it's fine. It's great for like losing weight and everything, but like not much for bulking. But Platteville's gym has everything you could imagine. Like 2 Planet Fitnesses worth, might as well.
Pretty much. And to think that like we started with like the double floor, like super tiny one little like hallway worth of space.
Yeah.
And now it's huge.
The Xavier gym is 3 stories. No, 3 stories with a basement and a pool. It is massive.
That's insane. That's crazy. I mean, it's so like again, I'm not a big like college sporting fan, but is like Xavier like have a good sporting program? Is that why their gym is just so nice? Like they just go
basketball.
Okay, like I feel like I need.
Well, here's the thing: we have the old field house, which is literally like a stone's throw away across the street from my apartment. But that athletic area is only for athletes. I asked them, and they're like, "Are you an athlete? No, get out."
What do you mean? You should have told them you're an athlete. You're out here running a marathon and doing these random runs.
Do you see these
you're
legs?
An athlete.
Of course I am.
But the matter is, we have a massive gym, and I'm truly glad for that. Plus, when I get alumni membership, I get a parking pass. So yeah, I could walk, but I'm lazy at times. A lot of times.
Wait till winter.
Yeah.
Winter's like,
or I could just walk them.
Winter's like the best when you're working out. You like get a good lift in, and then you go outside and you hit the cold. It feels so good.
I have like a week worth of negative 20 degrees for living up here in Rice Lake. No, I'm good.
Well,
yeah, at least it's not the polar vortex. I tell that to people in Ohio, and they're like, "How is that a thing?" That's not a thing.
That was a wild time.
State, man.
That was a wild time. I remember staying in the upstairs of the house and just being covered in blankets and being in bed all day. It was awful.
I was curled up next to like the indoor fireplace that we have at home, cuddling my dog under blankets. And my dad was like, "Don't try leaving the house. The car won't start," and yet he leaves the house.
Yeah, that man. I mean, I remember like it was nice when we were in school because it was like, oh, like classes got canceled, like sick. What are we gonna do now? But um, I don't think we knew what we were in for when that whole
No, we were
CA.
not.
When we got that cold. Oh, so, wrapping all back, now that you've done your time, now that you're have your adult job, grad school, moving across the country, what do you? Is there any advice you'd like to share for us? Advice to undergraduates listening, to people listening, to alumni listening, to anyone out there in the world?
Honestly, life truly will take you to weird places. Like if you asked me 6 years ago that I would be in a join and still active in a fraternity, have found family there, people that I honestly would drop anything to help. I finding a family at work, and then moving to Ohio in the midst of a pandemic and having my master's. I'd say, nice joke, man. No, shoot. But honestly, life life will take you to weird spots. And yeah, you might have like goals, but at the end of the day, just be along for the ride and always try something new every time you go do something. Like as I said, like variety and experience is the spice and zest of life. I remember hearing this quote that is something I live by is yesterday is history, today is a gift, tomorrow is a mystery because oh, who knows, like tomorrow I could not just wake up, but I'm trying my best to get as many experiences in my life as I can. And that's what I support for like undergrads, grads, alumni, or just Uncle Rick in Des Moines who's watching this. I don't know. I don't have an Uncle Rick, but some random person watching this. Always make sure that you try something new and live your life to the best. So yeah, even if it
I can
even if
respect
it's
that.
scary, take that chance.
I think that's fantastic advice. Um, and I mean, just like taking those like especially again with like the field that you're in, like being able to take those risks and like try out like have so many different experiences. I feel like just helps you relate to people like a lot better because again, everybody that comes in is gonna have different backgrounds, different stories, their own different experiences to share, and just the more experiences that you get and the more things that you do allow you to maybe find one random thing that you guys connect on, you know.
Yeah, like I have little knickknacks in my office that some people might be like, "Oh, that's unprofessional to have Funko Pops in your office," but it's like it's really just interesting. Plus, always keep an open mind to anyone, even if you feel that you wouldn't relate to somebody. Just keep an open mind and learn something new every day. Because like we always preach balanced mind, balanced body, but if you're not actively trying to seek out knowledge, you're not having a balanced mind. You're having a stagnant mind, and you're wasting away that potential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic
Okay,
advice.
okay.
Hope everybody listening, especially the undergrads, remember that last part. Like you're always growing. You need to continue your education, regardless on if you actually do it through school or just
The
through random stuff.
education, yes.
Education. Awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic episode, I'd say. Colin, do you have anything else that maybe you want to share we can talk about before we end it up here?
Well, here's actually something that I want anyone listening to this to really think about this. This is truly what I live by. Uh, this is a quote that let me pull this up. For never be cruel, never be cowardly. Remember, hate is always foolish, love is always wise. Always try to be nice, but never fail to be kind. Because that, if you guys bumped into me on campus, my sophomore year, you probably, well, Dom, you were probably still in high school. You were probably still.
Correct. I came after you joined. I started
Yeah,
in fall
yeah,
2017.
you were probably still in diapers.
Sure.
But honestly, regardless of like first perception, like always be kind and always give people a chance. Because look at me, I started undergrad with a huge chip on my shoulder and like a irrational pathological hatred towards all things Greek. And here I am, like, always be kind, never take anything for granted, and never, ever, ever give up on your hopes and dreams because you have people supporting you. Mic drop.
Should have had an actual mic to drop. Maybe we can add.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe we can add a mic drop like effect or something. Dom, you think you could do that?
I'll get like a loud crash sound.
Sure. I didn't know if that'd be too difficult. You can edit in like an emoji mic like falling from Colin's hand.
Should I get like the really cheesy like explosion too?
Sure.
Yes.
Let's put some budget into it. That's special effects.
Oh my lord. But yeah, thank you, Colin. We really appreciate you coming on. I think this, as Austin said, this actually has been a fantastic episode. It really is enjoyable learning about the experiences and who you've become. Seeing the growth out of you as an individual, I think even through my time after you've already started has been absolutely astronomical. You know, you've grown into a very kind, caring, and very strong individual, and it's really nice to see how much you've grown. We really do appreciate you coming on and talking about your experiences.
And
it really has been a joy.
I remember one of my first memorable experiences with you, Dom, was I was trying to like lobby you to have me as your big. Then you're like, yeah. And then Austin is your big.
Austin is
no,
not
it was
my
it was big was your
big.
I think I was on academic probation at that time. Or not, I guess not academic probation, whatever probation for SigEp for grades. I wasn't under trouble at the university.
That darn industrial engineering.
Yeah, and look where it got me now.
But now you know things about engineering.
That's true. I'm actually like
school psychologists wouldn't.
Knowing some of it has actually been kind of helpful when I'm working with some of my kids. Like or it's just a good experience to have to be like, hey, like I dropped out of this program and switched and this is what I do now. You gotta find what you're passionate about, you know?
Yeah, it's really funny. I remember when I was in middle school, my 8th grade teacher said, you're going to change your major at least 2 times to all of us. And I was like, nah, I know what I'm doing. You're just crazy. You just didn't know what you wanted to do. I was like, well, here I am.
Hey, it happens sometimes. Don't be afraid of it. For any of the undergrads that are still listening.
So some last minute notes, though, I do want to jump on. So listeners, if you're kind of listening, still kind of following along, for once again, so homecoming is October 9th through the 15th for University of Wisconsin-Platteville. Undergrads are already hard at work working on some things. It's only September, middle of September, but they are still working their butts off with homecoming just about a month away. So on the Saturday, the day right after the parade, Chef John and alumnus Aaron Victor are who also have been working their butts off, are going to be putting on and bringing back the lamb roast that we so dearly loved. It is going to take place Saturday, October 15th, right after the parade. More details can be found on the Facebook page. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to them. Feel free to reach out to us. We can kind of relay the message you any questions. And then some new information popping up if you guys are curious. So Saturday, October 14th. That's going to be at 7 p.m. So the day before the parade and everything, we're going to go to the Potosi Brewing for having an alumni dinner starting at 7 p.m. There will be a post on Facebook for you to RSVP. And so you can kind of let me know, get your RSVPs in by October 1st so I can get a good number of everyone going. And then as well as other information, some new stuff coming out. Saturday, October 29th, Halloween costume party and costume contest in Madison, Wisconsin. More details to follow as time gets closer. Just mark your calendars right now. But some new information that you have heard first of the podcast is there is a $25 gift card to a place of your choosing for the winner of the costume contest.
Ooh.
If you are a couple and doing a couple contests, the money's going to be shared. Can't be each, sorry. But $25 to gift card of your choice, wherever you want to go. That is, so do plan your costumes accordingly. Get ready. It's going to be a great time. That's all the information I have. Austin, is there any other information that you wanted to address?
Not that I can think of. Again, thank you, Colin, for hopping on. When we kind of had the initial like rumblings of doing this podcast and like getting it off the grounds, and I had mentioned it like during the ABC meetings, you were like one of the first people that reached out to me to do one. So it's a shame that it's taken so long for us to get you on. But like I said, it was good to have you on and tell your story and just to reconnect. Like you said, like we haven't seen each other in a very long time, but I've definitely been still following what you're doing with grad school because again, I was going through the same experience, and so to see that you made it through and now you're thriving in your career, we love that. So yeah, thank you again for that. We're glad that we were able to get you on, and we'll definitely need to bring you on again at some point to talk a bit more about like what it is you do and just get a recap now, like maybe like a year into your job.
Oh, for sure. I will definitely be. I'll have my people call your people to schedule this.
We'll figure it out.
Yes.
All right. You guys, all right. Well, Colin, you have yourself a wonderful night. Now that it's almost 10 o'clock because you're on a different time zone than us. Thank you for taking time out of your extra time for us. We really appreciate it. But without further ado, thank you all for listening in. Thank you, Colin, once again for coming on. You all have a wonderful Wednesday evening.